Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. Khushwant Singh was an Indian lawyer, politician, journalist, and novelist. He was extremely well regarded in writing circles, but also excelled as an editor. He started up 2 newspapers, the National Herald and the Hindustan Times. One of the last magazines he edited, the Illustrated Weekly of India. It increased its membership from 65,000 to 400,000. But why did Khushwant Singh move from law to journalism? When he was asked this question, his answer was simple. He said he was reading some articles and thought to himself, I could do better than this. The sheer mediocrity of the work before him ignited his desire to be a journalist. But what if your scenario is different? What if you're not stepping into a world of mediocrity? What if there are 10,000 blogs that already seem to do a great job in your field? What if there are 25,694 books that already seem to be as good, if not better than the book you're going to write? So that's what we do. We launch books and podcasts and blogs, and we're wondering, why would we do this when there are already such outstanding blogs and podcasts and information out there? So how do you stand out when the competition is already outstanding? There are 3 parts to this answer, and the first part is the importance of personality. The second is the identification of the problem, and the third is why a single superpower is all you need. But we're going to break this up into 2 episodes, and in this episode, we'll only cover one thing, which is the importance of personality, because we go a lot into personality and how to build that personality. So let's start with that first topic, which is the importance of personality. If you've ever scrolled through Indian recipes on YouTube, you're likely to have run into the Va Chef.
Hello, Namaste, Salam Walaikum, Sat Sri Akal. Welcome back to another session with your Va Chef at vareva.com. Today we're going to learn coconut red chutney. You know, this is a kind of chutney what is usually made on the street side vendors.
The Va Chef is a popular and funny character, and his recipe channel has had over 100 million hits, and it has been going since 2007. But even the Va Chef pales in comparison to another chef, Sanjeev Kapoor. His channel on YouTube back in 2010 had over 500 million hits. So let's say it's 2016, and you've decided to start up a YouTube channel. What are you going to do? The competition is already well established. It has consistently delivered outstanding content. So how are you going to compete in such an arena? Let's stop for a second at a YouTube channel called The Bombay Chef. This recipe channel is hosted by a chef called Varun Inamdar.
Hi guys, welcome to Rajshri Food. This is the Bombay Chef Varun Inamdar, and today I bring Amritsari kulchas into your kitchen. Home style.
Now he's an easygoing character, and he launched the Bombay Chef on 28th February of 2016. We're in September of 2016, and the Bombay Chef has over 92,000 subscribers. So what causes a person to stand out in a crowd? We all have to make this leap. We all have to go from person to personality. We have a sense of who we are, but that point of difference seems to get lost when we build a website. When we create a video or write a book or create a course, again, that personality is subdued. And this personality can be seen both online and offline. Take an example of a cafe that I used to visit on a regular basis. Yes, I used to visit. The coffee hasn't changed much, but the personalities have gone. The grumpy manager, she's gone. That big smiling girl, she's gone too. Instead, the staff at the cafe have been replaced by a bunch of robots. There is no personality, and though it's the very same place with the very same coffee machine, I don't feel like going there. It still has excellent coffee, but I just don't go there quite as often. Now, a similar concept ripples through all of these Indian chefs on YouTube. The first one, Va Chef, he's the crazy guy, and you can hear the madness in his voice. 100 million people love that madness. The one with 500 million views, Sanjeev Kapoor, he's more like your sober uncle. He's got tidy clothes, there's not a hair out of place, meticulous and health conscious. And then we have the third guy, which is the new kid on the block, the Bombay Chef. He's more like the guy next door. He's smiley, genial, and he's got a desire to reduce the intimidation that a lot of us have with cooking Indian food. When you compare these videos with tens of thousands of other food videos, you'll see something very consistent. There is a sense of personality. Yet personality doesn't come naturally. To get your personality through, it's a good idea to plan it in advance. And once you planned it, let your clients know what you're doing. The headline course is now in progress, and for most people, writing headlines is a dreary process. Yet, in the Psychotactics headline course, we write a ton of headlines. And headlines that include terms like dinosaur poop or filtered kalamazuas. The group soon sees the training system as being different, as one filled with personality and fun. And when I pitch in as a teacher, I encourage that fun. In the process, everyone learns, but something more interesting is happening as well. In a world of Me Too courses, clients end up paying a lot more for a psychotactics course. You can get a headline course or you can get notes for a lot less. You can also get a cartooning course, an article writing course, a copywriting course. You can get them at half the price of a psychotactics course. And yet, clients come back repeatedly to do a psychotactics course. It's not like they don't want to try to do other courses as well. They do. They go to the competition, they do a course, and then they come right back. There are other reasons that they like the courses. The primary reason is that you don't just get information, but you get a skill. Even so, let's say that we gave you a skill, but totally took out the personality. Then it would soon become like my ex-cafe, wouldn't it? When I started out writing articles on the internet back in the year 2000, there was very little competition. Most people visiting a site would readily subscribe to a newsletter. Our website at the time had a 6-point font size, and yet it attracted over 1,000 subscribers. And this is even though we had no subscribe button. You had to read a lot of text just to find a way to subscribe. Today, the competition has heated up considerably. If your website looks just like any other website, if your podcast is just another clone of some guru podcast, if your book is just a bunch of text strung together, then you're Me Too. No one is asking you to be something you're not. When the Psychotactics podcast was first released back in 2008 or 2009, it had no personality. It was just me talking about business. Perhaps creating an audio version of my articles. That's what I was doing. There was no zing at all. Which is why when we restarted the podcast in 2014, I had to sit down. I had to work out what I wanted. I wanted music. And I didn't want the music to just be part of the background. I wanted it to breathe. I wanted it to have space. I wanted it to be long stretches of music because music lifts me up. I expected the music to lift others too. And about the content, I wanted it to have this sense of urgency. To just cover 3 points, and there was one thing to do at the end, and that one thing should be easy enough to accomplish. And to begin with, the podcast also had a second character, one that we quickly killed because no one could understand what he was saying. Even so, it wasn't just a mundane podcast, and the same applies to the books that we create, the courses, even the website. And wait till you see the new website coming out later this year. What I'm saying here is that every single production has this sense of personality. Let me give you an example of the planning that goes into a project. Take a psychotactics book, for instance. Notice the recipes in the middle of a marketing book. Notice the cartoons, the captions. And recently we've been putting photos of events and the journey involved in creating the book. Now, all of this requires a touch of planning, but it also fits in perfectly with our personality. In today's world, it's too risky to be me too. If you were to redesign the structure of your offline store, what would it look like? If you started creating a book from scratch, what would it resemble? If you were to do a video, what elements would that video have? These are the characteristics I'm going through as I sit down to plan a presentation. I'm doing a presentation in Australia in a couple of weeks at the We Are podcast conference. Now, there are a dozen speakers showing up, and I don't want to be just another speaker on stage. I don't want to be a me too. I want that personality to come out. I want to stand out from that crowd of speakers. So how do I do it? It's one thing to say, go ahead and let your personality shine, but there seems to be no easy way to create personality. But what if there were a method? And what if you could go about it by following a system? A system? Yes, a system. So let's find out what that personality system could be, shall we? In one of the podcasts, I mentioned how much I liked John Mayer's music. And almost instantly, I got the email telling me I should talk about the things that I liked, the software that I use, and the books I read. So why is the outside world so interested? And why does it form an important part of your personality? Think of your favorite movie star. Don't you happen to know a little bit about her? What about your favorite sports star or musician? Maybe someone from the land of technology. And if you're still struggling, think of your least favorite politician. A lot of what draws you or repels you to that person is based on what you like or dislike. And then there are the quirks. So let's lay these 3 points one under the other and repeat them once more. Point 1, what you like. Point 2, what you dislike. And 3, some quirks about you. So let's look at some of the stuff that you like. When I wrote the first version of the Brain Audit, there was no recipe in the middle of the book. Version 2.0 was thicker, more detailed, still no recipe in the book. And yet, by version 3.2, the butter chicken recipe was a firm feature. It was clear that I liked food, so why not talk about food? Why not put recipes and photos? Why not give examples of food? Whenever you look at things that you like, it's safe to assume that there are others who like it too. When you hide away your likes, no one is ever going to know about it. But let a few rays of sunshine fall on your likes, and you'll notice how clients seem to respond almost immediately. So let's say you like orange juice with just a touch of salt in it. Let me know. Tell me a story. Slip in that example. Do you like fishing? What about your obsession with microphones? Everything has a bit of a story to it, and when you tell that story in the middle of your presentation, or your book, or your course, you start to reveal something about yourself, something that you're fond of, and the audience gets to connect with you. Clients respond to what you like in a way that you may never imagine. For instance, you know I like travel. You know I like food, painting, cooking. And how do you know that? It's because I told you so. The podcast is named The 3-Month Vacations because I love my vocation and my vacation. So when you look at the VAR Chef's videos, you'll see how he loves to pour half a bottle of oil. I'm not kidding. Half a bottle of oil into every dish. You'll see how he samples his dish and adores his own food. He's his own PR agent. It's a side that brings his personality to life, and that's the reason he stands out so much. But the stuff you like is only one side of the picture. There are things that you may not like. In 2008, I was using a PC. By 2009, I got rid of all my PCs. I got rid of 2 desktops and 1 laptop. The laptop went under the bed, and it's still there. I removed the hard disks of the desktops and I gave the units away. I didn't like PCs anymore. If you read the book called Black Belt Presentation, it's there. I clearly tell you that I fell in love with Keynote, which is a Mac program, and I could never go back to Windows. So, in effect, I don't like Windows anymore. The other thing I don't care about is average coffee. I'd rather drink water or nothing than have a pathetic coffee. So, yes, you could call me a coffee snob. Same goes for wine. If the wine isn't red, if it isn't complex, if it isn't full-bodied, I just don't want it. And that's just the personal stuff. There's also work stuff. All of these likes and dislikes, they aren't full-out rants. They're just stuff that define you as a person. Instead of languishing endlessly in the shadows, your clients get to understand who you are and what you stand for. And it all happens in a very short time frame. In these last few lines, you figured out my wine and coffee and computer likes and dislikes. So it doesn't take a lot to get that message across. So we covered the likes and we covered the dislikes, and this takes us to the quirks. What are the quirks? A friend of mine loves to iron clothes. And you know what I like to do? I really like to wash dishes. Yes, we have a dishwasher, and no, it probably doesn't work because we haven't used it in 10 years or more. I like to run the warm, soapy water over my hands. I like the water to be a trickle, not a gusher. See how that tiny bit of information brought a smile to your face? But quirks don't have to be solely about what you do. They could be about who you are. In the brain audit, we talk about the problem of finding shoes for Renuka, who's my wife. And now everyone who ever read the brain audit knows that Renuka wears size 5 shoes. The competition is already outstanding. They already have a great set of books. They already have superb videos. They have outstanding audio. So what are you going to do? Let your personality shine with the likes, the dislikes, and the quirks. And sure, you won't be liked by everyone, but that's the whole point, isn't it? In trying to please everyone, you end up like a wallflower. No one knows much about you at all, and you end up sitting on the fence. I like John Mayer, but I also happen to like Garth Brooks. I also happen to like Willie Nelson, and yes, George Strait. I love country music. I listened to country music growing up on the radio. Hard to believe that was the case in Mumbai, but that's true. That's what I listened to. That's what I grew up with. And now what you've got is another layer of personality. It's this factor of personality that endears you to your favorite writers, your musicians, and your sports stars. Without personality, you've got nothing. Well, not a lot. So the first step is personality, the likes, the dislikes, the quirks, especially quirks, because we all have a lot of them. However, one question does remain. How do you create a personality with a company where there is no specific person to personify? And I don't think you can. Unless you put your personality behind one person in the company. For instance, Apple had Steve Jobs, Virgin has Richard Branson, and even today Apple has different characters that have this personality. If you're just going to present yourself as a company, you're as good as invisible. No one knows who you are because you're behind a wall. So you've got to create that personality through video or audio. Somehow you've got to personify your company through one person or maybe 3 or 4 people who represent the company. And that's how you get your personality out. Now, without it, you can still run a company. You can be very successful, but it's going to take a lot more effort to stand out. This podcast was how to stand out when the competition was already outstanding. And it comprised of 3 parts. First is the importance of personality. Second is the identification of a problem. And the third is a single superpower. That's all you need. So we'll come back and we'll explore the other 2 parts in part 2 of this podcast. For now, let's jump into the summary. So, personality matters. Personality matters, there's no doubt about it. Planning the personality, the cartoons, the epilogue, the food recipes, they're all part of the books. And that brings out the personality for a psychotactics book. And what does your book have? What does your video have? What does your audio have? You have to plan that stuff. It doesn't just pop in and stay there. You have to plan it and then roll it out. Everything you do needs this planning. Personality may seem natural, but the planning ensures that you don't drop the personality, because often we just have a deadline and we have to get the job done. That's why you have to do the planning. Now, how do you get that personality? There are 3 ways. The first thing is what you like. Slip that in. Stuff that you like. What you dislike, bring that in as well. And finally, some quirks about you. And that is how we go about standing out when the competition is already outstanding. So that brings us to the end of this podcast. What's happening in Psychotactics land? We are rolling out the pre-sale course on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of October. You have to be on the email list to get that notification. Other than that, not a lot's happening this year. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. In mid-October, we'll be back in Auckland. And we'll see you in 5000 BC. Now, this is a working trip. It's not a vacation. So we're going to be around in Brisbane and Byron Bay and then in Surfers Paradise before heading back to Auckland. Bye for now.